Hello and welcome to Tax Matters. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuluko. Ramadan Kareem to all our Muslim compatriots. It's amazing how time flies. We are at the end of May 2018 already. May 27 is Children's Day in Nigeria. And May 29 is Democracy Day. And so, here is wishing all Nigerian children and youths Happy Children's Day. And to all our compatriots across the country, Happy Democracy Day. Today's episode of Tax Matters is dedicated to Nigerian children and youths. Our crew went around the city of Abuja to feel the pulse of the young ones to find out what they know about taxation and taxes. We begin with the very young ones, the primary school children.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS calls on all corporate organizations operating in Nigeria to register for the purpose of payment of taxes and obtain a tax identification number TIN. All registered companies must obtain a tax identification number immediately from the nearest FIRS office. You can also collect and return tax registration forms from the Federal Inland Revenue Service Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Teams (FEET) on compliance checks exercise in your area. A company which is yet to commence business after at least 6 months of incorporation must pay a pre-operational levy of 20,000 naira in the first year and 25,000 naira for subsequent years to obtain its tax clearance certificate (TCC). Note that filing and payment of VAT and withholding tax returns must be done on or before the 21st day of every month. Register for VAT. File all tax returns as and at when due. Be a responsible corporate citizen of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
What do you know about taxes?
Tax are those money collected from people who are working for public purposes.
Tax is the money being collected by government officials to develop the country for future use.
Tax is said to be the money contributed by the citizen to develop the nation.
Taxes are the money collected by the government to improve the country.
Tax is the money collected from a person. When a person open his own shop, like when somebody open a shop, and some man or woman will come and collect tax.
What are the types of taxes you know?
VAT, WHT, PAYE.
VAT, CIT.
VAT, Pay as you earn, CIT.
VAT, CIT.
Who collects this tax?
Our leaders.
The people who come to write numbers on the walls and collect money.
Who do we pay taxes to?
To the government.
Who collects it on behalf of the government?
Tax officers.
Who collects the taxes on behalf of the government?
Tax officers.
Tax collectors.
Taxes collector.
Now, what do they use these taxes individuals pay for?
They use these taxes to take care of us and take care of our country.
To take care of the environment.
They use it to build schools, hospitals, and the rest. They use it to develop the country, like repair the roads, electricity, and so on.
Providing good roads, water, and social amenities, hospital, and schools.
Make good roads, provide food, going into agriculture should make sure that the people in the country are comfortable.
What does the government use the taxes we pay for?
Construction of road, water supply, and electricity supply.
To construct schools, hospitals, and roads.
They use it to construct road, hospital, schools.
Construct road, build houses, and build roads.
To build house, to build roads, and to build hospitals.
To build house, build hospital, water supply, and electricity.
Uses it for pipe-borne water, electricity, and social purposes.
Do your mommy and daddy pay tax?
Yes. Like now when they are paying them salaries, they can remove some of their money from inside for that as their tax and pay. They will not give them full money.
Yes. They cut tax from inside their salaries.
When they pay them their salaries, they will cut half of it and pay their tax.
Okay, apart from the salary, do you know other ways the government collects taxes from people?
Yes, the water board and NEPA.
Listening to the children, one gets the impression that those in paid employment, those in regular employment, are the milking cows when it comes to taxation. They are obviously the ones who cannot escape. The young ones are sure watching. The children spoke about water rates, electricity charges. We must say that they are not alone. Adults, reputable business owners also refer to some of these levies and charges and fees as taxes. But in reality, whatever you pay in exchange for a particular service that is not rendered to everyone around you is not a tax. Refuse collection charge, airport tax, parking charges. Taxes, on the other hand, are levied on everybody across the spectrum, each one according to his means. And when these young ones grow up, would they like to pay taxes?
When you grow up, would you like to pay tax?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yuck. Yes. Yes.
The eyes have it. Next episode, still in the spirit of Children's Day, still as our own way of commemorating Children's Day in Nigeria, we will be moving up the ladder. We will be talking to children of secondary schools in and around the Federal Capital Territory. Back to our primary school respondents, the children were asked what they would like to become in future, and we had various responses. I would like to be a doctor. I would like to be a lawyer. I would like to be a pilot. It's all well and good. But dear children, we have a recommendation for you. Worth considering. Study very hard. Face your studies. Read accountancy. Read law. Read economics. But then do you know that you can go on to become a tax practitioner? And what, you may ask, does a tax practitioner do?
I think part of our job as we go into practice is to help our clients, our employers, for them to comply with the law of taxation. It's not to circumvent the law, but rather to help them in compliance. And the compliance function ranges from helping them to register, to filing their taxes on time, to making the appropriate payments, and making full disclosures of their earnings and expenditures. Of course, we could also have an advocacy role in ensuring that the tax law are simple enough for taxpayers to understand, in also ensuring that the tax law are quite understandable, and that the burden of compliance is lessened. But you and I, we have a call to duty as professional tax practitioners.
Sounds interesting, doesn't it? On Thursday, the 26th of April 2018, 409 men and women were formally inducted into the hallowed ranks of chartered tax practitioners in Nigeria. The inductees were formally presented to the President and Chairman in Council of the CITN by the Registrar and Chief Executive Officer.
Mr. President, you have before you 409 applicants for the membership of the Institute. 124 of them sat for and passed the Institute's professional examinations, while the remaining 285 applied under the direct membership window. I hereby recommend them to you to be inducted as associate members of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria.
Mr. Simon Kato is the chairman, Membership and Professional Conduct Committee of the CITN.
This event is meant to present the instrument of office to qualified members with which they could earn a living and contribute to the development of our nation through this noble profession of taxation.
The 409 new chassis inductees stood up, or stepped forward if you like, to be formally inducted. Among inductees at the 38th induction ceremony were the Executive Governor of Edo State, Godwin Obaseki, who was represented by another inductee, his Commissioner for Finance, Mr. Michael Ohio Ezomo, as well as the Ondo State Commissioner for Finance, Mr. Wale Akintenriwa.
Say after me, please. I do solemnly swear that I shall always comply with the provisions of the Institute Charter, bear true allegiance to the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, obey all rules and regulations.
Prizes were presented to those among the inductees who excelled in the October 2017 professional examinations of the CITN. The ladies carried the day, with one of them, Ms. Toluwalashe Omoteyinse, single-handedly cutting away 3 prizes, including Best Overall Graduating Student.
For you to qualify for this award, you must have written all the papers on the level that you are writing. We have 4 levels of the examination presently. We have Foundation, PT1, PT2, and PT3, which is the final stage. For anybody to get our award, that person must sit for the 4 papers in that level and must be the person with the highest mark at that level.
Tax Matters spoke to some of the award winners.
What do we expect from you as now a tax practitioner?
You know, there's a lot of expectation out there, and I really hope to be able to meet up to the expectation. As a tax practitioner, we have a lot ahead of us. You know, even from what they told us today, it's not just about making money, it's about service to the nation. Just as we all know, all revenue is dwindling by the day, and now the nation is beginning to rely on tax as a source of income. So as a tax practitioner, we need to do a lot to enlighten our clients on the need to pay tax, and then to also know why this tax has to be paid. We have to display a lot of professionalism, integrity. We shouldn't be compromised. It's a lot of work, hard work for us, and I really hope that I can, meet that expectation and make the Institute feel proud of us.
What words do you have for people out there who aspire to be like you?
I encourage them, there is nothing impossible. I'm a lawyer, and a lot of lawyers, some lawyers, I would say, shy away from taking this examination because of the calculation and other things involved. But I will tell everybody that nothing is impossible. With determination and hard work, you can do this, and I encourage you to go for it. It's worth it, absolutely worth it.
What word do you have for people out there who are looking up to you?
For those looking up to me, they should be ready to read, they should be ready to be focused, they should be ready to understand what it takes for you to be a successful tax practitioner, and also to be a successful person as an individual in this profession and in the country. So you have to be good, you have to be intelligent, you have to be smart, and be able to read. And know that definitely you come out the best. And God on your side, everything is so possible.
Still talking about the noble profession, when tax administrators are called out across Nigeria, and we dare say across Africa, the name Babatunde Fowler rings a loud bell. Babatunde Fowler is the Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria, Chairman, Joint Tax Board. Babatunde Fowler is also the President, African Tax Administration Forum. On August 10, 2017, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres named Mr. Fowler and 4 other African tax chiefs as members of the 25-member International Committee of Experts on International Cooperation in Tax Matters, under the auspices of the Economic and Social Council of the UN. On Friday, the 18th of May 2018, a special meeting of tax experts was held under the auspices of the ECOSOC to consider international cooperation in tax matters, including its contribution to mobilizing domestic resources for development and institutional arrangements to promote such cooperation with the participation of the representatives of national tax authorities. The meeting of representatives of national tax authorities was held immediately following the 16th session of the Committee of Experts to facilitate dialogue between the committee and the council and to provide input to intergovernmental consideration of tax matters at the United Nations. The main topic on the agenda was taxation and the digitalization of the economy.
I call to order the 26th meeting of the 2018 session of the Economic and Social Council. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to welcome you to the 2018 special meeting of the Economic and Social Council on International Cooperation in Tax Matters. Let me also give a warm welcome to the representative from civil society in the business sector. We appreciate your continuous and insightful contribution to the debate on international tax matters and look forward to your participation in the interactive discussion today.
I am pleased to see the ongoing enthusiasm for a topic that is sometimes considered dry and technical, but one which is truly at the heart of our efforts to implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Taxation provides a critical source of finance to governments to deliver public services that are vital for sustainable development. International cooperation is a key enabler to ensure that countries can collect their appropriate share of taxes, drawing the full benefits from participating in the open globalized economy, while minimizing the negative impacts on other economies. Large companies today are offering significant amounts of products and services in a country without having any physical presence in that country. However, physical presence has historically been required to make foreign companies subject to corporate income tax and to the obligation to collect value-added taxes. The need to adapt national and international tax rules to the new business models made possible by digital technology has been recognized for quite some time, but overall progress has only been incremental. Let me start with the encouraging news that some important progress has indeed been achieved. In the area of value-added tax, since 2003, the European Union requires value-added tax to be collected by non-EU suppliers that sell digital products and services in the EU. In 2015, the joint G20 OECD project on base erosion and profit shifting, BEPS, resulted in an internationally endorsed recommendation that foreign suppliers of digital products and services should collect and remit value-added tax to the countries where their products and services are consumed. However, a large number of developing countries still have not adopted the necessary changes to their laws and administrative practices. Unfortunately, progress has been much slower in the area of corporate taxation. The internationally agreed rules incorporated in a network of bilateral tax treaties still require some form of physical presence in a country before a country can levy its income tax. A new sense of urgency has emerged among many developed and developing countries, and some have already taken or are considering unilateral actions. However, such actions can create additional challenges. Only a month ago, the OECD, which has been working on the issue for several years, released its interim report on tax challenges arising from digitalization, which calls for an internationally agreed long-term solution by 2020. I'm therefore pleased that the Tax Committee has put taxation and the digitalized economy on its agenda, since it can exert significant influence on the international community toward finding a universal solution.
Mr. Babatunde Fowler had the singular honor of delivering the keynote address at the meeting.
Talking from the perspective of a member of some people call developing countries or developing economies, you find out that our similarities are actually more than our differences. First of all, I'd like to speak a little bit about Africa. Africa is said to have 30% of the world's natural resources, but still remains the poorest continent in the world. In the 80s, a lot of African countries found in commercial quantities natural resources from oil, gold, tin, whatever you think of, you could find it on the African continent. So while we were busy selling the natural resources, the other developed countries of the world were actually reforming their tax process. In the particular situation of Nigeria in the 70s, we found out that what we generated in oil was more than sufficient to fund the government activities at that point in time. And a lot of African countries fell into the same situation until we found out that we did not control the price of these products. We exported crude oil, we exported unrefined gold, we exported everything in a crude form. And by the time it came to market, we found out that the price was determined somewhere else. Now, in terms of taxing approaches, a lot of countries have come up with individual strategies to ensure that they get some tax revenue from the digital economy. For example, India applies a 6% equalization levy for specified services provided by non-residents. The Argentine government requires a foreign supplier to register for VAT in Argentina. The city of Buenos Aires applies a levy through the withholding tax mechanism, whereby debit and credit card companies are required to withhold 3% of the net amount of any payments remitted to them.
Mr. Fowler proceeded to talk about developments in the Nigerian tax arena.
Like I said before, Nigeria was a country, and still a country, that still generates or puts out 2 million barrels of oil per day. And it will seem like that is quite a lot of money. But for the type of work that is required, you'll find out that with a population of 170 million, it doesn't really end up being a lot of money. With technology, in the last 12 months, we're able to increase our tax revenue base by 800,000 corporate accounts. In 2015 to 2017, we grew our non-oil tax revenue by and accounts for 64.3% of total revenue from 42.8% between 2012 and 2014. So basically, we have moved away from an oil-dependent revenue source to a non-oil revenue source. At the same time, we are focused on VAT. VAT continues to be the fastest growing tax type in the world. So Nigeria has tried to make sure that we start to generate sufficient revenue in VAT, and we have put in place technology to make sure that we capture all the VAT available. To give a brief idea of the growth in VAT over the last 3 years, in 2015, we collected 767 billion. In 2016, 828 billion. And 2017, 972 billion, which represents a growth of about 25%. At the rate of this growth, we see VAT being in terms of value, the largest tax type that will generate as a country.
Nigeria's Babatunde Fowler out there on the world stage for you. Honor done to one is honor done to all. I feel proud. Don't you feel proud? We thank you most sincerely for riding with us today on Tax Matters. Let's do this again next week, same day of the week, same time of the day, same station. Ramadan Kareem once again. Happy Children's Day and Happy Democracy Day. Have a blessed week ahead.